For many reasons. We have a really rock star panel moderated by one of my favorite friends at Forté. So thank you all for joining us, spending part of your day. If you're new to the work that we do here at Forté, welcome. We're super excited to have you. We're at Forté, we are all about fueling the future of business, helping candidates wherever they are on their journey to and through an MBA. We also provide programming for candidates once they're in MBA programs, as well as undergraduate and professionals. So super excited to be on this journey with you to an MBA, regardless of kind of how you found us. Really excited to have you here today. Before we dive into the panel, I am going to take the opportunity to just talk about some of the programs that we offer. So we'd love to continue the conversation beyond today into the future. So as you're thinking about exploring an MBA, I would invite you to attend one of our upcoming events to connect with one of our amazing, or many of our amazing member schools. We have our forum event upcoming in December, and that is open to candidates regardless of where you are in the process. If you're just starting out in the application, or maybe you're aiming for a January deadline, we'd love to have you at one of our forums. The forum in December will have over 50 schools in attendance. So if you're looking to connect to some schools before the end of the year, this is a great opportunity to do so. Also, if you are looking for some assistance as you go through the application process, I would highly recommend checking out our MBA launch program. We have two versions of that program. One is our hybrid program, which is for candidates applying in January. So if you are aiming for those popular January deadlines, hybrid is a great option. Enrollment is open now. And then we also have our live program, which is an 8-month prep program. Applications for that are open now when we start in February. So that's a great option if you're thinking about applying in like fall 2026, which will be here before we know it. So that's our MBA launch program. And then the other thing I'll mention, if you love webinars, we've got a lot of webinars. So a very popular topic we will be covering on Friday is financing your MBA. So if you are interested in checking that out, that will be on Friday. I'll put a link in the chat to register for those webinars. And then we have a few more upcoming before the end of the year to help you get ready, know all the things as you're heading into next year. Wonderful. I want to give a special shout out today to Michigan Ross and Foster for sponsoring the webinar and providing us with some great panelists. Also, thank you to the consortium. If you're unfamiliar with the consortium, they're a wonderful kind of mission-aligned organization. Their mission, which is supported by an amazing alliance and network of committed allies and member schools and companies, is to expand access and increase representation in business, education, and leadership. So I think I've done enough talking. I kind of rapid fire went through any of that. If you have any questions about what I covered, feel free to drop those in the chat. As we go through, I know there will be time for some audience questions, so feel free to utilize that Q&A. I'm going to turn it over to my amazing colleague, Wendy Dukes, who will be moderating our conversation today. So Wendy, take us away.
Thanks, Ashley. Hi, I am Wendy Dukes, Director of MBA Programs at Forté. And I myself received an MBA from Michigan State University. And today I am so happy to welcome our two panelists so that we can talk to you about applying to an MBA. And so first, let me have the panelists introduce themselves. I'm going to start with Cynthia. So Cynthia, give us an overview of you.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much, Wendy, and thank you for inviting me. My name is Cynthia Vargas. I am an alumni of the University of Washington, the Foster School of Business. I graduated in 2023 from the full-time program, and I'm currently working at Microsoft as an HR business partner. And I'm based here in Seattle.
And Ohima.
Great. Good morning, everybody. Good afternoon. My name is Ohima Ntiamoa. I am a graduate of Carnegie Mellon University, Tepper School of Business. I graduated in 2016 with my MBA, and I'm currently a senior brand manager at Stash Tea. So if you're a tea drinker or a tea lover, Stash might be a brand to consider. But anywho, and I'm just really happy to be here.
That's right. Push your brands, Microsoft and Stash Tea. Absolutely. So let's start with the very first thing to talk about, deciding to get an MBA. So for a lot of people, they get an MBA because maybe they got laid off or the job market seemed to be very lucrative. What was it for you? So Ohima, let's start with you. Why did you decide to get your MBA?
That's a great question. Thanks, Wendy. For me, it was always kind of in my purview and something that I was kind of planning to do. I did my undergraduate degree in business as well. So I was a business major at Loyola Marymount here in LA. And while I was there, I really wanted to do another emphasis in marketing. But for me, I kind of ran out of time. I was on a full scholarship. I didn't have the luxury of like summer education in addition. And I also decided to study abroad in Germany. So that limited my classes a little bit for a whole semester. And so I wasn't able to do the additional marketing emphasis, which is marketing is something I've always been kind of interested in. It's just my natural creativity. And I realized and observed how impactful it is. So I always, even in undergrad, I always had this plan. Oh, I'm going to go for grad school. I'm going to get my master's in business. I'm going to focus on marketing to really get that. So that's what I did. And I also had the example of my mom. My parents studied different fields. My dad went the science route, really, really far, PhD level scientist, and my mom did her MBA years ago. And I just saw the diversity of opportunities it afforded her. And yeah, so it just kind of planted a seed in my mind growing up.
Yeah, so an MBA can be obtained for so many different reasons. Like if you want to pivot to a different area of expertise, or if you want to enhance the skills that you already have. So, Cynthia, what was it for you?
Yeah, it was kind of similar for me as well. I will start by saying that yes, just like Ohima, I always knew that I wanted to do a master's. After college, I was like, yeah, like the next thing is going to be my master's. But I didn't know in what. Again, education for me and for my family was super important because my parents didn't get to go to school, and they were always so like pushing that you have to go to school, like school is a priority. And so again, like I'm like, of course, naturally, I'm gonna take that next step. And back then, when I was thinking about a master's, I was honestly not doing a lot of research necessarily. I was just thinking, okay, I just need to do it. And I applied to a program in Sweden, which I got in. And then I realized, like, wait a minute. Why am I doing this? Is it just for the sake of going somewhere? There's no direction. Like, is it just for the sake of having a degree? Um, and then I realized that as an immigrant, I actually moved to the US when I was in my early 20s. As an immigrant, when I was applying to jobs, I kept getting rejected. And I figured that it was because a couple of reasons. I didn't have experience in the US market. And I thought that I was missing that, like, okay, made in the US, like that education in the US brand. And so that made me realize, okay, maybe Sweden is not going to help me to get a job here. Let me refocus and really think about a strategy. And when I did more research, I realized that the master's program that could get me to where I wanted to be, which is a big company, good benefits, the next, step in my career was an MBA. And that's how I decided to eventually, decline that other offer and then start the journey of applying to an MBA, which it was not a simple journey, but it was very, very worth it.
Right. So overall, deciding on whether you should get an MBA or not, so many different reasons, skills enhancements, maybe it's the stamp of approval, maybe it's because you want to make more money, but whatever it is, you definitely need to decide that it's the right thing to do for you. And when you decide that you want to get an MBA, let's talk about the next steps because it's not just as easy as taking a test and submitting an exam. So, Cynthia, let me start with you. Explain all the different things that you encountered when you were going down that MBA application journey. And let's focus on this. What do you think the most difficult thing was?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I think there were many lows, and of course there were some highs as well, but I would say the main two things that were concerning for me were my exams, my GMAT, GRE. Uh, because I'm not a test person. I just cannot function under that level of pressure on a standardized test, knowing that I only have 1 minute per question. My brain just doesn't work like that. I am not mathematically inclined. I know I can do it, but it's just something that didn't come naturally to me. So I took the GMAT and the GRE like a total of like 5 or 6 times, and I never got to my target score. So that was the most difficult part for me because I kept thinking, okay, let me try again. Let me try again. And you know, these tests are not cheap. And so every time I was trying, it was money that I was investing, but also I just couldn't get to that score. And the improvement was very minimal. And so I had to eventually had to make a decision and say, hey, like this is going to be your last try. If it doesn't work out, like just focus on other parts of your application. And then you know you're going to submit a full application. You need to be stronger in other areas, maybe, yes. But I was just spending too much time thinking and becoming obsessed with my GMAT and my GRE scores. The other thing that I'd say was stressful was, of course, the money. Like when you start doing your research on MBA programs and you see the price tag of many of these programs, because of course you want to go to a school that's going to have a return on your investment. It's not cheap. It's not cheap. I didn't have savings. I didn't have a high-paying job, and so it was. Yes, I knew that I wanted to get this program. At the same time, I didn't know how I was going to pay for it, and I was terrified of debt. So that was the two things that for me were the most stressful part, the test, the money, and of course, with the money, eventually I got a full ride through the consortium, and it was amazing because I didn't have to pay for tuition. I only had to, borrow some money for my living expenses, but it made it so much more manageable, and I was able to enjoy my experience during my MBA because I didn't have to worry about taking on an even bigger loan.
Yeah, so the GMAT, the GRE, the test can be probably a low point for a lot of different people, but there's also trying to figure out which school you need to go to or which one is the best fit. So I think there is also that process of researching the different schools and finding the one that's right for you. And Ohima, so I'm going to ask you the same question, and maybe you can talk a little bit too about how you landed on Tepper.
Yeah. So similar to Cynthia, I guess one of the challenging parts of the process for me was in the midst of taking the GMAT, which I ended up taking it twice, trying to just bump up my score a little bit. Guys, I honestly kind of li lost sight of like, why am I doing this? I had that same moment like Cynthia, and I remember standing in the kitchen having a conversation with my dad at the time, and he really talked me back off the ledge of reminding me why this is part of my game plan. Because honestly, the other thing I forgot to mention is I'm an artist. I'm a singer-songwriter. I'm a musician, so and that's been a part of my dream. I've been singing since I was probably about 4 or 5 years old, so I always that was part of the reason why I wanted to go back to school and learn more about marketing and get a deeper knowledge of business and learn how to be a good runner of businesses and things like that. So I had explained to my parents, and they saw the vision because they've been raising me, right? So they kind of saw the seed that's already in me and my dream and everything. But when I lost sight of the vision, I was going down the path mentally of, I mean, I want to sing, like I want to do creative stuff. What, like I feel like that's part of the main reason why I'm on this earth. Why do I need to do this? Why am I suffering in this test and trying to, and I'm going to the library after work. I'm working all the way through work, and then I'm coming home real quick, eat something, go to the library, shut myself in the library for another 3 hours, trying to pass this GMAT. And I had given myself an ultimatum that I wasn't allowed to get my nails done until I passed the GMAT. Well, not passed, but like until I took the GMAT again and I finished all my applications because I too did consortium. So I was applying through the consortium application, which is fantastic, but it's like multiple applications in one. So I had a time frame for myself. I got to finish my applications by this date. I want to be done by, I think I said my birthday, which is right around Thanksgiving. And I'm not allowed to go back and get a manicure. I got to stay here and look at these janky nails until I hit these goals. And I remember that conversation in my kitchen with my dad. And I was like, I don't need to do this. Why do I need an MBA to be a singer? This, and he said, remember, Amma, that's my cultural name is Amma. He said, Amma, remember, this is part of your broader strategy. Remember, he also said, your mind is a gift. Don't think that your only gifts is the singing and everything. You have a powerful brain, and God has given you a sharp mind. You have to, it's part of your responsibility to cultivate it. If there's something that you know that you can do and that will help you in your future to get better positioned, to be able to impact more people in life and to be able to pursue your dreams, you should do it. This is your time to do it. You've already come this far. Just finish it. You can do it. And this is part of your broader master plan. Remember that. This is not just, oh, I'm going to suffer through it just so I can say that I did it. No, remember you told me this, this, and this is how this plays into your plan. Don't lose sight of that. And don't lose sight of the fact that your mind is a gift. You have to cultivate it. You have to take it as far as you can go. So that's what put me back. I said, okay, you're right, Daddy. I'm going to take this test. So, as far as landing on Tepper, to answer your other question, Wendy, like I said, I did the consortium application. I had several schools on there. I think if it's still the same way, you can apply to up to six. And Tepper, Carnegie Mellon was one of my top, among some others. I had Yale on there. I had a few others in there. But after researching the different schools and even going to some of them and seeing, I definitely went to Carnegie Mellon's diversity weekend at the time that they had at Tepper and things. And for me, when I go to the school and even my interactions with some of the folks in admissions and talking to people that I might know through second degree connections who might have gone there, etc., I'm able to get a sense. And I loved the fact that it was a smaller class size. It was going to be rigorous. I knew that. Carnegie Mellon is no joke. I knew it was going to be rigorous. But I had a template of that from my past. Loyola Marymount wasn't necessarily easy. My high school was all basically like college type of stuff, so I was like, I could do that. I could do that part. But I know beyond that, it's going to really prepare me, and I feel like I'm going to come across some people here that think differently than I do, that challenge me and push me academically, and the network, and what I can contribute to the classroom too with my background. It's just going to make for a really good experience. So that's how I landed on Tepper.
I have to ask though, Carnegie Mellon is known for performance arts. And so while you were at Tepper, was that something that you thought about and did you take advantage of that extra addition while you
Yes.
were there? Oh, you
Yeah,
did. Okay.
yeah. I remember I audited a couple classes of something in the music department. I also participated in a what was it called? Like a songathon, some sort of like the hackathon, but like for songwriting. I made friends with a random group of people and we entered this contest and we actually won, I think, second place. And so we had to perform in the main, yeah. And so we did songwriting together in a room with a piano for like a whole day. And then we performed that song we just wrote live that night. So I did stuff like that. And I did in club leadership. I was head of the Africa Business Collective. And for International Week at Tepper, we did some performances. I taught some girls like African cultural dance and we did a whole performance and I did Bollywood dancing. I had a ball. Listen, I did all the things.
So, okay, let's go down that path about the whole MBA experience. Did it meet your expectations? Cynthia, I'm going to start with you. I would love to hear like what surprised you about the MBA experience and what do you want to share with everyone about what you learned while you were in it?
Yeah, listen, Ohima, you sounds like you had a really good time. For me, it was similar because when I was thinking about the program, I knew one thing that I wanted to do the full-time program because I really wanted to immerse myself for 2 years in the experience of being a student again, making friends, meeting new people, learning new things, and being involved. Growing up, honestly, I was never involved in any like student clubs or, anything like that, like extracurriculars. Not really. Like that was not something that I just, didn't grow up doing. And I took this as an opportunity to try some of that. And so I was super involved in student clubs. I was super involved in leadership programs, in cultural programs. One thing that I really pride myself with is, my Latin heritage and my Mexican heritage. And so at the University of Washington in the Foster program, it is a smaller cohort as well. And I really like the fact that I knew all my classmates by name and everyone knew me. And in terms of diversity, it was honestly a very small percentage who were Latino or Hispanic. And so I took that as an opportunity to, okay, well, let's, do something about that. And then I created a lot of cultural programs. I took my entire class to Mexico City because that's where I'm from. And so what started with like, okay, some of my teammates, let's go and like, come with me. I'll introduce you to my parents, turned into me renting a bus, and 40 of my classmates were in Mexico City. So it was a really fun time. I think that the content of an MBA in this time and age, you can find everything on the internet, right? You can go to YouTube, you can find, like finance classes, you can ask ChatGPT to give you a lesson on strategy. But truly what the MBA gave me and what it can give you is those connections and the growth that you can have becoming a leader. Again, just I was the president of the Global Business Association, and we hosted a bunch of different events that had to do with bringing panelists on site or how to bridge, cultural differences with business. And so that's something that today, to this day, it really helps me because I am more comfortable speaking to an audience. I'm more comfortable leading a team. I'm more comfortable sharing my ideas. And so that to me was the best part of the MBA because then of course the classes were interesting, but the goodness that you get is the interaction from learning from others, which is not something that you get from, maybe watching a YouTube tutorial. So yeah, that would be for me, just being super engaged and involved in all things and immerse myself in the full-time experience.
I had to come off mute. So, yes, listening to both of you talk about your experiences while in the MBA program, I got my MBA just when email addresses were coming out. And so it sounds like it's nothing changes. Going to get your MBA on a full-time basis gives you so much exposure to different people from different cultures, from different experiences, and part of the experience of getting an MBA is learning from others while you're in your program. But I want to dig a little deeper, and I want to hear about an experience that you had while you were an MBA that you think set you up for success in your current role after you graduated. Think about that for a second. Ohima, I'm going to come to you. Think about, because this is what makes the MBA special. This is why we encourage everyone to consider an MBA because you can't get that type of learning off the internet or, from AI. So what about that experience that you had at Tepper really came in handy when you stepped out back into the real world after graduation?
Yeah. And it's hard to sum it up into one experience, but if I think about kind of just a summary of the types of experiences and the major categories that really set me up, I think case competitions really set me up for what I do now. Um, I joined the Deloitte case competition just a couple weeks into my first mini at Tepper, and we had a case for a nonprofit, and that group work and thinking together, even still being fairly new and not having a whole lot of classes under our belt, um, that's when I started to realize, okay, your MBA is going to teach you how to think well and how to solve problems and how to attack problems so that in no matter what case you're given, right? And eventually the cases move from being hypothetical or you're going for a trophy to real life. These are business cases, right? That I started to realize that's one of the key things it's going to give me. We won that case competition. I was even impressed because I was like, we're kind of new here. Like but we're coming from industry. And then I think the other thing that set me up for what I do well is just learning from some of the sharpest minds in the country. Like some of my professors were really, really good. I had certain classes that you don't think are maybe as important. I remember the alumni who used to come back and do those alumni panels at school for a diversity weekend or for, those uh, special days that they would have on campus. They all started to say one thing, which I really took a mental note of. They said, listen, guys, pay attention to those soft skill classes that you don't think you're here for. Pay attention and take things like organizational change management, which I took, which really came in handy during my internship at Kraft during the merger with Heinz. I was there during the merger. I had just taken that change management class, which was 7 to 10 p.m. in the evening, and it taught me so much. And then I entered this internship and I was like, wow, this is coming to life right here, and it became a thread throughout my career. I've worked at Kraft, I've worked at Mars Wrigley, I've worked on M&M's brand, I've worked at Munchkin, Nature Made Vitamins, a lot of different places. Classes like that, classes like leadership, classes like managing people in teams, which we used to call MPAT. I took a business acting class while I was at Tepper, negotiations, those types of skills, and the chance to practice them. Then there was a very interesting class taught by Professor Robert Kelly, which I'll never forget. It was about basically kind of knowing your worth and pursuing your dreams. Is that type of class. But this man has written a lot of books. This man is very, very knowledgeable. He's one of the forefront people in his field. And it's like, you think you're, oh, okay, Carnegie Mellon, it's like the statistics and the optimization courses and all those heavy analytics courses. And people are doing an analytics track, because that's also what we're known for. We're known for like computer science and robotics. So a very heady place, right? And I'm surrounded by half my class is like engineers, right? So um, you think you're coming in for that type of stuff. The stuff that really goes with you and helps you to be a sharp leader, a sharp thinker, a good strategist, and an excellent communicator is some of those other things that you might think are peripheral. That's what takes you up in your career. As you get into leadership, they warned us, as you get into leadership, it's going to be less about the technical skills because you're going to be leading, you're going to be managing people that have those technical skills now. Now it's about how you lead people. Now it's about your ability to empathize. Now it's about the three different types of appeal: emotional appeal, rational appeal. Some of this stuff that they teach you in these classes that you think, oh, maybe, I don't know, maybe that's going to be an easy class. That's a frou-frou class. Those are the ones. That's part of the reason why you're there. And that's what it's really going to leave you with. The Excel stuff that you learned with the fancy plugins, you may go to a company that uses that. Chances are you're not going to end up the coding that you learned. I took a coding class because I mean, the environment I'm in, right? So I took a coding class, learned AIMS software and all this type of stuff. We had to code a route for the Major League Baseball League and how do you optimize to see every game in 30 days. Worked with a group, did a great job. Have I ever worked somewhere that uses AIMS? No. Have I ever really had to do coding in my marketing career? Not really. But the group work, the ability to manage people together, the ability to lead without authority. How do you lead people and show up as a leader when you're not the boss of them? Because this is a group assignment. Nobody's the boss. but how do you leadership without authority? That became a skill that I discovered at a place like Mars, a major CPG. They're hiring for stuff like that. It's on the rubric. We want people who can lead without authority. So these are the things that show up, right? And then the networking that also set me up for success. Just getting to know your peers. Don't stay in as a shut-in and just be like, oh, I came here for school. I'm just going to study. Go to beers. We used to have something on Fridays called beers where we didn't have class. I think every MBA school, most of them have something like this. At Tepper, it's called beers. At Dartmouth, they call it something else, whatever. Berkeley calls it something. But from all my peers that I've heard from, we all kind of had something similar where there's like a day where you don't have class and they put on something. They catered in food for us. They had obviously beers and non-alcoholic drinks as well. And different clubs would sponsor each beers. And not staying home and missing it, that's part of the lesson. Go to these things, meet your classmates, have these conversations. Some of those same people are going to help you get jobs in 5 years.
So it sounds like it can be fun, right? But
Absolutely.
sounds like it could be fun. Cynthia, tell me about it from your perspective at Foster.
Yeah, I would say, I mean, very similar. But something that set me up for success, maybe three things, and I'm going to focus on one. But the first one, of course, is an internship. And I think this is something that all schools do, of course. And so definitely take advantage of that because that can be a catapult to a full-time offer that will then set you up for a longer term job. So definitely an internship. The second thing, it would be the leadership opportunities that I already talked about, leading a club, making sure that you are, pulling people together to accomplish one thing, which is an event, like gathering money and people. And so thinking about the strategy. So of course, leadership opportunities. There's one program at Foster called the Fritzky Fellows, and basically it is a program where you apply to be a fellow as your second year, and you become a mentor for first years. But the nice thing about it is that as you become a mentor to first years, you're also being mentored by experts in the faculty, and then they bring people from industry, and then they mentor you so that you can become a better mentor. So it was an incredible opportunity. The kickoff of the program was going to Lake Washington here and learning to row as a team. The 12 fellows, we would have to, all align and be on sync. And it's a very great it's very similar to how you need to do that as a team, outside of like at work and outside of, like fun times. But the third thing, and very similar, is the applied strategy projects. So for at Foster, our winter quarter, we have, instead of having one class, our class is applied strategy. And you dedicate your full quarter to go and help a company or a small business that comes to you and needs your help for a specific project. So here we had Microsoft and Google and big companies asking for help and give projects to us, but also we had smaller businesses that had, that any idea that would come from us would be actually implemented, which is something I really liked because my strategy project was with a smaller company. And of course, I'm sure that the folks that work with Microsoft and Google and these other bigger companies, they learned a ton. But when you work with a smaller business, these ideas, you see that you don't need to wait for approvals from the CVP, from like all these different layers of management. If you're talking to the owner and you say like, okay, let's talk about your strategy and this is how we're going to implement it. And if your goal is, I don't know, like more sales to Gen Z, like let's talk about it. So, and it's something that they can implement tomorrow. So it was very, very cool to see how we can come up with something that can be real, like that can be tangible. And to me, that feels like something that set me up for success because I play to my strengths and I worked on the things that I'm good at, but I also observed and learned a lot from others because you do this as a team. And like to your point, there were a bunch of engineers on my cohort and my team. Like I am not an engineer, so I really learned to think like one because I was spending so much time with engineers. But also, like 50% of my class was international students. So you really also learn from how this problem can be seen from many different perspectives. And so I think that that's something that easily translates to the workplace where you need to come up with a solution, make sure that it can be implemented. Like, what are your blind spots? Like, what different perspectives are you taking so that that project actually lands? And I would say that the practical experience that I got from that was set me up for success.
Okay, so has the MBA proved to be a game changer for you both? Do you think it has helped with your advancement? Do you think it has helped with your growth, particularly as a woman in business? So Cynthia, tell us about it from your perspective.
Absolutely. I mean, and from many different points, I think from like personal growth, absolutely. I pushed myself so much to do things that I didn't think that I could do. Wendy, I would join these webinars. I'm an alumni of the launch program, of the MBA launch program. That was actually my last try to get an MBA. I was like, if this doesn't work out, maybe God doesn't want me to have an MBA because I had tried so many different things. Um, and I was like, let me just give it a try, do this MBA launch thing. This was actually just when the pandemic hit. So we had the kickoff session and then we went into shutdown. And so it was like, I would see panelists and I would think, oh, that will never be me. Like that sounds like a dream. Oh my gosh, I want to work at that company or I want to get into that school. Oh my God, a full ride? What are you talking about? Like that's not for me. And so now, of course, fast forward, I have accomplished what I thought was only a dream. And that knowing that I could do it and it was through the MBA and preparing for the MBA, applying to the MBA, and everything that went during and after, like personal growth was incredible. Uh, on the more businessy side, like, of course, you want an MBA also because you want more money. And I got more money. Like, before the MBA, I was working at a small staffing and recruitment company. I didn't even have a 401k. Like, I didn't have benefits. My salary was like the third of what it is today. That's why I didn't have any savings to go to school. So, and then like knowing that I can get more and that it's okay, it was like, yeah, of course, like I am in that group of women who are independent, who can, like, if I want to go on a trip tomorrow to visit my family, I can go and make it happen. And so from that perspective in creating wealth, and by wealth I mean just having a 401k, having savings, those types of things, like the MBA really helped me because it was through the MBA that I was able to get an internship at Microsoft, and now I am in a full-time role that I absolutely love. So yes, 10 out of 10, my experience, love it, recommend, and I loved it.
You brought up a really good point that I just want to reemphasize too. An MBA can really assist with the advancement of wealth and narrowing the wealth gap when it comes to women, and then also generational wealth too. I think an MBA also helps with that too. So just kind of wanted to point that out because you gave a perfect example of how that kind of works in real time. Ohima, did the MBA really help you or no?
Oh, absolutely, Wendy. And I second everything that my sister Cynthia just said too, because I think it revolutionized my life. I'm very glad that my dad had that conversation with me in the kitchen and talked me off the ledge. Yeah, so just for perspective on the topic of generational wealth and everything, right? And the doors that it opens. Before I went for my MBA, I was working in higher education, online higher education. I was an admissions representative for an online university, and then I moved to finance at that company. So I was a like student finance counselor. During that time, when I compare my salary and I did have some salary bumps, I was there for about 4 years. If I compare that to my starting salary coming out of my MBA, right? So when I finished my MBA, I got a job with Mars, the chocolate company, which is now Mars Wrigley, right? It's part of Mars Wrigley, and then there's Mars Petcare. Mars is huge, right? So I got into their, they had like a leadership rotational program, which is awesome. That starting salary was more than double what I was making before my MBA. So that just gives you perspective. And now I know everybody doesn't have the same starting points and ending points and things like that, but I remember just pausing to reflect on that when I got my offer letter from Mars, and I was like, wow, how far I've come, right? Because I too am an immigrant. I was born in Ghana, West Africa. English is not my first language. I learned English around the age of 5 when I started coming to school, like, and I, when I just think back, and my parents are obviously immigrants who came from, yeah. So when you think about the journey, I think the other thing that has made it worth it too, even as a woman, is the rooms that you're exposed to, the rooms that you can be in now because you have this qualification. Because, like it or not, sometimes the rooms that you're in before you get a higher advanced degree, like an MBA, and an MBA is a very strategic degree because compared to other masters, sometimes, especially in the business world, and remember this too, every organization is kind of a business. So an MBA will help you no matter if you end up working for a church, if you end up working for a nonprofit, if you end up working in government, if you end up working for a corporation, an MBA will help you because remember, I said it teaches you how to think better and how to solve problems, how to attack and dissect a case and reach how to look at data and reach a sound conclusion, right? And how to make recommendations. That'll help you no matter where you work. So the rooms that you're exposed to, though, after an MBA are very different, I noticed. They're very different from the rooms that you had access to before, because now you've got access to places that you didn't maybe qualify in other people's minds. Not to say that you weren't smart all along, you were smart. But the way the world works in this capitalistic society, there are certain setups, there are certain tiers, and there is sometimes a preconceived notion that, okay, well, I mean, you don't really qualify because you haven't really, you haven't, we're looking for somebody who kind of has this degree, or to get to that next hump in your career, we would just prefer if they've gone and gotten their MBA. That's why a ton of my peers were engineers, because at some point you kind of hit a ceiling and you kind of need the MBA to round things out. And it's not just for appearances. It really does teach you the skills you need to know and the way of thinking that you need in order to steer big ships, right? So the rooms that you get access to, even through your network, remember I said go to beers, go to whatever equivalent of beers that you're going to have. I'm sure University of Washington had something similar too. The networking that you do with your peers, it's not just for long-term friendships. These are the people that you're going to help each other. You're going to help each other. And oh, you're looking for something. Okay. I think one of my classmates is over at Walmart corporate and they're hiring right now. Things like that. Or even if it's not about a job, I've done plenty of calls with peers or incoming students who just, hit me up needing to maybe do some mock interviewing. They've got something coming up, they want me to, you help each other by looking at each other's resume, things like that, helping to think through, okay, you've got this case at work even. We've even had these conversations with peers and folks, in the workplace. I'm presented with this case at this other company. We used to work together. Now I'm at another company. I'm presented with this. Remember how we used to do it over at this other place? Well, how would you tackle this? And because you've gone through your MBA, it's taught you some things about how to approach problems. You're helping each other through your careers, or you're helping each other to negotiate a better offer. I've done that too. What are they offering you? Oh, no, you got to tell them this. Helping each other to even craft better emails. Should I say this? Well, no, because we got to do a little bit of game theory, right? Well, strategically, this is how I would frame it. Now we have ChatGPT, which is great, but people still matter. People who can think well and who know how to reason well, they are indispensable. They are not easily replaced by AI or machinery. When you have a mind that has learned through other people who are knowledgeable and through peers who have a diversity of experience, that whole data set cannot easily be replaced by a machine. And I come from a machine school, like a robotics and science school, right? But even they all know it's not a one for one. So when you go through something like an MBA and you learn those skills from people who have that knowledge, more knowledge combined than we can even quantify, that will definitely make a difference in your life.
Mhm. Okay, one thing I just want to point out to the audience, if you have any questions, put them in the Q&A because we are 10 minutes from ending this panel. So, question for both of you. What advice would you give those who are thinking about getting an MBA? What kind of advice would you give to them when it comes to the MBA journey? My piece of advice that I always give folks is don't think or don't count out a school that you believe is unobtainable. You know, there's always those high-reaching schools and the safety schools. If you want to apply to that high-reaching school, apply to that high-reaching school because you just never know what could happen. So that's always my piece of advice. And make sure that you are exploring all sorts of different schools. Don't just focus on a set of schools because they're on the West Coast. Don't just focus on a set of schools because you went there or it's in the ACC or the Big Ten. You know, expand your research. And let me toss it over to you too, Cynthia. What's your piece of advice?
Yeah, I want to touch briefly on what you said, Wendy, because I applied to 8 different schools. My school, where I ended up I did get admitted to a few schools, but where I ended up, I didn't know about the program until I joined one of these panels from different MBA programs, and I really liked what they were sharing. That it was a more like tech industry. I had never been in Seattle, but like I knew that I wanted to be in a city. Growing up in Mexico City is a massive place, so I knew I wanted to be in a city. So like I think that when I was thinking about my schools where I wanted to apply to, I was focusing very narrowly on like, oh, it needs to check all these boxes. And then, University of Washington showed up, and I'm like, I really like what you're saying. And that's where I ended up. And so definitely do your research and think broadly. Think about like your reach schools. Absolutely. Let them reject you. Don't reject yourself automatically. And you'll be surprised what you can accomplish. But my piece of advice would be do it for you. Do it for you. Like it's going to be something that no one is going to be able to take away from you. Once you apply, once you get in, even if you're rejected from some of these programs, when I got waitlisted at my top school that I wanted to go to, the University of Chicago, like I was celebrating. I'm like, I cannot believe I was waitlisted. I thought I was going to be an immediate rejection, because it was one of my reach schools. And so do it for you because no one can take that away from you. The fact that you went through who knows how many things, like maybe, like studying a lot or saving or finding scholarship opportunities or networking. Every single thing you do is helping you grow. And when you do it for you, like it just becomes goodness and richness that continues to, make your self growth. And I say that also because initially what got me thinking into getting a master's degree. And at the time that I applied to that Sweden program that I ended up rejecting was because I saw many people in my circle starting to go to Europe for their programs for like a degree. It would be a degree in who knows what. It wasn't an MBA. It was like a master's in nutrition, master's in who knows what. And I'm like, wait, I didn't know you were interested in that. And so, but I'm like, but they're traveling and they're moving and they're doing, I need to do the same thing. And again, like thinking back, I'm like, I'm so glad that I just took a pause and said like, okay, what are your goals? And Sweden sounds amazing, but like, is that gonna go and tie back to what you want, which is find a job in the US? And the answer was no. And so once I let go of that pressure, and we're humans, of course, we see others and we like feel like we need to do the same. And so once I let go of that and focus on my own journey, I saw a tremendous amount of growth. So to finish that, thought, just do it for you.
Yeah, and I guess I could go, yeah, I could go next. I agree, and I think my piece of advice would be don't put limits on yourself. You know, limits are invisible. So they could not exist if you just don't set them, right? So they're not something that's tangible and a hard line in the sand. Don't put limits. Go for your reach schools, like Cynthia said. If you're doubting whether you can do this, you can. Try to wipe that doubt from your mind. Go down rabbit holes that are positive. Research people that have done it. Research scholarships that are available to you, programs that you could do. You know, I highly, personally, if you're a minority, I highly recommend the consortium and MLT. Cynthia and I are both consortium fellows, right? Um, and just take a step back to think. You know, there's a proverb in my language that says, you got to step back and think and strategize. You have to set aside that time, right? Basically, loosely translated. But take a step back. Don't do it because you see other people doing it, or, oh, I guess I should probably do that, you know, or other people are pressuring you to do stuff. Sit back and think, what are my goals? What are my dreams in life? Okay, now how do I facilitate that? What can be an enabler for me? And just remember everything that we've said on this call, how an MBA will positively impact your life, but it's got to be tied to your goals. The reason why you have to do that is because doing hard things will inevitably lead to a season therein where you feel like giving up. So your goals and the strategy sessions that you had to really write down your goals and dreams, that's what will anchor you, because the MBA itself, it's not always going to feel great. You know, it seems short, like it's 2 years, you know, what can't I withstand for 2 years? Listen, there will be some nights where you're like pulling your hair out, wondering if you're gonna have any left, you know? And it's like, why did I do this again? Oh my gosh. And you feel like maybe I should just pause, or maybe, or even like when you get in, you could have some of those butterflies and be like, maybe I should just defer or whatever. So just take some time to think about your goals and get some accountability buddies so that they can remind you. And then when you do start your MBA, take advantage of everything. Don't pile everything on in your first year. I would say in your first year, this is what our seniors told us too. Your first year, focus on school, especially if you're in a program that, you know, people are warning you it's going to be rigorous, it's going to be rigorous, you know. Focus on school. Don't get too caught up in a lot of extracurricular things, because you're paying a lot of money, or somebody's paying a lot of money for you to really be there and get out of it what you need to get out of it. Don't overwhelm yourself, but try to find ways to take advantage of everything. One thing I forgot to mention that did set me up well is career services. Take advantage of your career services. The folks that mentor you on even how to craft your resume and how to frame things differently for this type of application versus this one, and all the jobs that are in that portal, right? Take advantage of the connections you're going to make, the people that you have access to, form good relationships so that you have a good rapport with folks. And take advantage of any sort of study abroad opportunity that you may have. I did my capstone abroad in Hong Kong. Great opportunity. It was a wonderful decision. That was my last at Tepper. We have minis, right? That was during my last mini. And because that ends a little bit before graduation date, we had like 3 weeks to just go backpacking through Asia, with my classmates. Like, when else are you going to do this in life, with this group of people, So take advantage of those things. Get to know your peers, form friendships, study with people, help each other with the hard classes. Go to office hours and read the book. When they're teaching in class, it all sounds a lot, oh, okay. Yeah, I kind of get it. But when I started going to the library and just reading the textbook, the PDF, go through, take my time, highlight things. Then I'm like, oh, this is what professor was saying. This is how that really works. Okay, I think I get it now. And then bouncing that off of your peers, like these are the things that really kind of get you there. So that would be my advice.
Yeah, all of this advice is so good. And I want to thank both of you for coming today to share your experiences and your insights at both Tepper and at Foster. So thank you, Ohima and Cynthia. And I'm gonna toss it over to Ashley so she can wrap things up.
So amazing. Such a wonderful conversation. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, which is that we got to wrap up. But thank you so much, both Ohima and Cynthia, for the amazing insights today. Wendy, thank you so much for moderating this conversation. This is available on YouTube if you'd like to go back and watch. Thank you, audience, for being here with us today. We certainly hope to see you at another Forte event soon, and I hope everyone has a wonderful rest of their day. Thanks so much, everybody.